We're talking about more of the psychology and how to pursue sales and how to filter out your clients and pick up on the red flags and actually shrink down the scale of the client base that you're going after. Really about finding the right fit. Now, just to give you a little bit of background and build a little credibility in my experience with sales, outside of being a contractor, I studied sales rigorously. I've been involved in, I was that guy that went to seminars and searched on YouTube, and I really wanted to understand how the psychology of the relationship between the salesperson and the contractor really works. And I think that's what it all comes down to when you're pursuing a sale. There is a hierarchy that's immediately established between a contractor and a client. And the client comes into the sales process as, I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but sort of the boss in the situation. They're the one that's providing you the work. They're the one to have something for you to offer. And I see a lot of, especially younger contractors, that get into this hierarchy with that understanding that I want something from you. And it's not really about that. It's kind of a two-way interview. And I'd like for everyone to kind of, look at it from a different perspective, that when you're entering into a sales negotiation or you're trying to acquire a sale, is to stop selling, start listening. What you're trying to do is build a relationship with that client. You're trying to improve trust and remove mistrust, obviously. So when you're pursuing this, it's normal for a contractor to have the idea in their mind that there are three things that I'm offering you. There's quality, there's speed, and there's price. And that's a bunch of bull. There's a lot more value there that a lot of people are missing. For instance, if you listen closely and you're offering a paint service, that speaking to that client, you might realize, once you get into the little personal and start building a friendship with them, that maybe a loved one passed away in their home and they want to refresh their paint because they just need a new fresh start, or they're just moving into a house. And there's a lot of things to build value around outside of your service. There's not a single contractor in the world that won't tell you that they don't have quality, that, they're not fast. And this isn't the two of the three sort of a thing. This is about building a friendship with your client. And the way you start a relationship is the way it's going to finish. So you're really setting up the way the contract is going to go by the way you pursue this process. I find a lot of contractors feel the need to sell themselves personally, which means I need to go down and see the job and I need to, take a look at all the details and present myself. It's all about the way I present myself. Now, most of my sales are done over the phone. The truth is I'll never see a job, and it's a little unique in my part of the industry, but I'll never see a job that I don't have, but I'll never start a job that I don't see. This is about building a relationship, and we want to know that I'm going to be allocating my time because my time is for sale. It's not a product on the shelf that I could sell later on. It does go to the highest bidder, right? And I'm just trying to qualify the customers, the right fit for me, and vice versa. So it's really like a kind of a perspective shift that contractors need to understand, that this relationship needs to be established. And I need to qualify you whether we're a good fit. So really going from 20 to 80 isn't a matter of, increasing your sales ratio with all of the leads that you have, but it's more about shrinking down your leads and generating more of a quality lead and allocating your time more appropriately. So you're not wasting all the time in the office, wasting all the time going to the job site, spending hours consulting projects that you'll never have and you never were going to have, because all that client is interested in something that you don't have to offer. So how do we remove that client contractor relationship? How do we get the client to, to let go of the fact that they're offering you work? They have something that you need. And that has a lot to do with how you structure the relationship. When you finally get a customer on the phone, what you want to kind of do is spend a little bit more time talking about stuff, right? Speak to them as if they're your neighbor, your friend, your daughter, and it goes on and on. Like, really, they're just human beings, just like you. They have a need. You have a product to offer. But if you can get that relationship thing out of the way, the process is going to go a lot easier. It sounds like it's more time consuming. It might sound like it's overwhelming, but it's not. Like, you're just having a conversation, like we're having a conversation right now. You're being as real as possible, and you're not presenting yourself in a way that you're like you're succumbing to this hierarchy structure. Let's get that out of the way. I'm Johnny, you're Frank. Let's talk, right? And there's little kind of tricks in the way that you can, use to steer a conversation. Like, you hear a dog in the background, talk about dogs. You hear kids in the background, talk about kids. Like, really get a little bit more personal, because once they trust you, they only want you. So you're setting yourself up to be the authority in your field, right? And there's all kinds of strategies. Now, look, I see on Facebook, I see on Instagram, I see all of these sales strategies, closing techniques. Like, it's just so salesy. It's so markety. Like, there's nothing about your job that's salesy, right? It's personal. So you want to get on that personal sort of relationship with your client. I don't know if anybody has any questions to kind of steer this conversation. Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, if at any point you guys do. I do have a question, Johnny. So let's take Chuck, the contractor, who is spending hours a week running to jobs and talking to people, but getting only about 20% of them. And he wants to pivot and do what you're talking about, having fewer leads, but more quality. What is that? Because there's a gap there, right? It's not like a switch that you just turn on and off, or maybe it is. But what does that journey look like for somebody to kind of shift to what you're talking about?
It's basically really understanding your ICP, ideal customer profile. Who is the customer that you're actually going after? If it's everybody, if you're coming at this, with trying to get everybody, you're going to be spinning your wheels, right? If you understand which customer is the right fit for you, I mean, if you're pursuing commercial, or you pursuing more of a residential area, like, where are you spending your time? And when you understand your ideal customer profile, it's a little bit easier, and it's a little less overwhelming on how you approach the market and spend your time. If somebody contacts you and they're not a good fit, don't pursue the sale yet, help the customer, right? Let them know that you're still there to help, but you're not a right fit for them, and move on. Now, I understand, I've been there. Like, when you have no work and you need that revenue flow, it's very easy to kind of get into the take everything you can get mode. But the truth is the amount of time and the amount of effort that's required to pursue things that are not a good fit for your company, because let's face it, everyone's structured differently. Everyone's capable of pursuing different scales of projects. Once you have that sort of ideal customer profile, you can eliminate the projects that you were never suitable for, the ones that you were never going to get, that you're not qualified for, or they're not qualified for you, and you can start improving your closing ratio because you're focusing on the right things. Now, the truth is, it costs a little bit of pain. You can't just stop your revenue flow and just start doing what I'm saying. It's kind of a bit of a process, but unless you're aiming for it, you're just going to keep spinning your wheels. There's no point in pursuing projects that you're never going to be suitable for, because the amount of time that you're wasting, this is more about, what can I do that is going to give me the most bang for my buck? What is the low-hanging fruit, the easiest thing with the least amount of effort that's going to give me the most amount of output? And it takes a bit of thought. Sit down with a pencil and paper and really nail down what your ideal customer profile is, and you'll start discovering things. Like you'll start discovering where they are, where to network. And networking has a lot to do with how your approach should be. Now, a big part of this is with networking isn't, just putting out Facebook ads and putting yourself out there and trying to acquire as many leads as possible. People don't want to be sold, but everybody's willing to give you advice. Approach it a little bit differently. Start approaching people, in some cases, if you're whoever your client might be, let it be a business in this case, is start asking people for advice. Take them to lunch. Your money's a hell of a lot better spent taking somebody to lunch and asking them for advice, as in, what can somebody like me do to acquire more customers like you? Sit down with me and tell me how I can structure myself to be better fitted for somebody like you. Stop selling, start listening, and people will tell you everything that you need to know. And at the worst case, if you don't get a sale when you're trying to build a friendship, you will get warm intros from them, and it will lead to other open doors. So you see how your time is a little bit better spent because you're spending the time in the space that you need to be able to acquire those type of clients, as opposed to trying to throw a bunch of mud against the wall and see what sticks.
I love that. And very unique approach, I would say, from what I've seen and what I've done, even with my husband and I, our business. And there's a few threads that seem to be running kind of underneath what you're saying, like undercurrents propping this up. One is abundance versus scarcity. When you were talking about shrinking your pool of people, essentially niching down, essentially when you're talking about your ICP. And I know sometimes that can be really scary. And then another concept that I hear, and the way I'm translating it is, and I know just you personally, relationship and the importance of relationship. And I wonder if those two concepts resonate with you and if they've influenced kind of this mindset and framework for managing your business. And if so, like, can you help us understand better the mindset that you're in to be able to kind of generate these frameworks and this way of doing business? Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit. It's like the relationship aspect of it has a lot to do with like building confidence in your abilities, and you need to look at the relationships around you and see how you manage those sort of relationships with your family, your friends, and what type of success rate you have with the relationships around you. There's a lot of personal growth mindset that is good to spend your time around. Because like if you're not confident and if you don't trust yourself and you don't trust your own abilities, you're going to find that you're putting yourself out there in a way like they can see it. They can see fake. People can see fake, right? It's obvious when you're trying to be something that you're not. So be what you are. So have confidence in yourself and how you pursue these relationships, things of your interests that may be in aligned with theirs. So it's not really about being different than what you are. It's more about personal growth and growing yourself as the intellectual person that you are, and showcasing your interests and just being real. People aren't like, don't be afraid to show your faults. Everybody realizes you have them. And it makes them more comfortable to know that you're just a human being and you're not so salesy and attacky, and like, just be as real as possible and have the conversations as you would with your friend, right? It's a different, mindset, a different approach, because like what you're trying to do is build that trust. Like it's kind of like courting somebody, or dating really is what it is. That this first conversation that you have with somebody shouldn't be about closing the sale. It should be more about discovery, right? And once you go through that discovery process, then you know exactly what to kind of put more attention on. when you're walking a customer through their scope and you're trying to identify the details and all the information that you need for pricing, it's kind of always, it's a little bit of a trick of mine to kind of leave some details out because I want another reason to call you, right? Because when I get off that phone, I know that there was something that I missed or something that, like I spend a little time, reflecting on the conversation, and I realized a few things that that I'd like to kind of touch on or approach. So I leave some things on the table, and over the time of a few conversations, I'm building that relationship, I'm building that trust, I'm building that authority, and that customer is going to trust me. And when my price is submitted, I can go into my pricing a little bit more confidently because I know I'm doing things that other contractors are not. They're trying to get that sale, get that deal, and go. And the customer picks up on that, right? They want to have a relationship with you, consciously or subconsciously, because they need to trust you. It's scary being a customer. There's all kinds of horror stories out there about being a contractor. So if you could just for that moment not be a contractor and just be somebody who's friendly and trustworthy, then they'll have a lot easier of a time paying that price as opposed to somebody else, because now you've established yourself as the authority in the industry. And I see a lot of people, with these kind of closing techniques. And, when that customer tells you, I've got a better price somewhere else, what do you say? And stop talking bad about your competition. Have confidence in yourself. Like, improve because we're all comrades. We're all a community. We're not in competition with each other. Technically speaking, we have a labor shortage problem. There is no competition. Essentially, what we're saying is, if they're coming at you and saying, I've got a better price somewhere else, the answer should be, there's really nothing about this project that's really that complex enough where I don't feel comfortable that you should go with somebody else for that lower price if that's something that you're looking for. Sounds like there's more than enough there for them to be able to execute safely. If it was a little bit more complex of a project, I'd probably be advising you not to, but I don't see why. It's not something that you should be too concerned about. I'd love to have the project myself because I know I could take care of you, but in a way, you're kind of downplaying their project and the complexity of it. In another way, you're telling them that it's something that this other price and this other guy is probably fine for their project. But more importantly, you're establishing yourself as an authority in their mind. It's no. I want you because you're obviously overqualified. You're obviously better communicator. You're obviously, and all these things kind of come up to place. So you're establishing yourself as the authority. Now you're advising them, right? You're not afraid to lose a sale. You're saying, I'm perfectly happy to walk away as long as you're okay, right? And I'm comfortable that you're okay. So if you need me, call me, right? If you need other options, feel free to call me. Like, in giving this up, you're establishing yourself as an authority, right? I don't know if anybody has any questions. Sometimes I have to stop myself from talking because
You're good. I have one last question, then we'll just open it up, open forum. So you've talked about a lot of really great stuff today, just in our short time. And one thing I just want to touch on briefly is, and you've said it in pieces, but I just want to have it cohesively. For somebody who's coming to you and saying, okay, I got it. I'm sold on this. This is what I want to do. Can you give a loose framework for the steps they'll need to take to get to this place where they are the authority and they're in a place of confidence in bidding and talking to people and not from this helter-skelter, afraid of scarcity kind of place? Can you kind of walk us through what that looks like?
if I were to establish a framework to this, it would be, in a couple of sections. I mean, first, let's start networking. Spend your time networking with people in the industry, right, that are like-minded, that are in that same part of the industry. For instance, there's companies that that'll take everything. There's companies like in my industry, in the tile industry, we go for the highest complexity, like really ultra, you know, high detail kind of projects, right? So we spend our time networking around that thing, spending time with, you know, networking with designers, not so much real estate agents because they're more of a, you know, broad type of, you know, part of the sector of the market. We spend a lot of time networking with other companies that target the same market as us. And we network with you know, larger companies, and so networking is key, right? Spend time asking for advice, get that networking thing, and improve your network. With improving your network, it will generate leads, and with it generating leads, you know, hopefully by improving your network, you've really kind of gotten a grip of how to manage and build relationships. Then it's the relationship aspect of it. um, this is what you're after. You're not after a sale. You're not after money. You're after relationships. If you can't have a good relationship, you're not interested in the job. And I'm not saying, you know, say no to jobs. I'm just saying is that to have that mindset is that what you're looking for in a project is a good relationship with that client, because that will generate more leads. And if you can't have that, all you have is money that's going to dwindle down over time, because the scale, you know, the quality of those projects are just going to get worse or worse and worse.
Just real quick.
Sure.
Excuse me. So it sounds like you're saying you produce quality work and you want clients that see that quality work. Is that accurate?
Not particularly. I mean, quality is something. The concept of quality is something I like to stay away from. I mean, if you're a trade that's in business, you know, you have to produce quality by default. Quality results in your process. It's more of the quality customer and relationship than it is the quality work, right? So I want to kind of separate. We're going to assume that you have the skills and you can produce the quality, right?
So it's an equal playing field. Everyone does the same.
Yeah, okay, let's put it that way, just to clarify. I guess essentially, like, if we were getting into that quality part of it, like, it's kind of a little bit of a different discussion. But yeah, we're going to assume that you know, everybody's in the same playing field, more or less. Look, the truth is a customer tells you that it's quality that they're looking for because that's almost psychologically what they feel they need to tell you, because it's obviously something that they're concerned. If it's a bad quality, it's a bad job, right? But really deep down inside, it's more than just quality, right? Quality can't really be determined. Quality is something that comes up on a project per project basis. So we're setting things up for a quality project by having a relationship with people. That the quality is the result of the communication and the trust and the relationship. If somebody suspects you as being trustworthy, it's going to hinder the ability for you to perform appropriately to be able to produce that quality anyways. So you could have a good quality product, but a bad relationship will lead to a bad quality outcome anyways, right? So really what we're trying to do is improve the circumstance, improve the environment to be able to produce that type of quality anyways. Not dropping your price is one of them. When your back's up against the wall, you're not looking at quality, you're looking to get the hell out of that job, right? And even though you're a better quality tradesman